Mark Bennett had learned to ignore ridiculous challenges, especially after becoming a single father. But when his best friend Ryan laughed and said, "I dare you to take the CEO out on one date," Mark nearly dropped his coffee. Dating wasn't part of his life anymore. His daughter needed stability, not romance. The CEO was Sophia Reynolds, a brilliant woman who ran a technology company worth billions. She was known for being confident, demanding, and nearly impossible to impress. Mark knew her reputation because his small repair business occasionally handled equipment for her company. To him, she lived in an entirely different world. Ryan leaned across the cafe table, grinning like a teenager. "You're always telling me money doesn't impress you, so prove it. Ask Sophia Reynolds out." Mark laughed immediately. The idea sounded absurd. Sophia probably had dozens of wealthy men chasing her. Why would she ever consider an exhausted single dad? "Because you're scared," Ryan teased. Mark stared at him for several seconds. Pride finally answered before common sense could. "Fine. One date." Ryan nearly choked laughing. Neither man realized that those 3 words would eventually change 2 families and force Sophia to question everything she believed about love. The following morning, Mark walked into Sophia's corporate office carrying a toolbox. A broken conference room projector needed repair. Sophia stood near the window reviewing financial reports, dressed in a professional navy suit. She barely looked up until Mark calmly said, "I have a question completely unrelated to your equipment." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "That sounds dangerous." Mark swallowed nervously. "Would you have dinner with me?" Silence filled the room. Sophia slowly lowered her tablet. For years, employees approached her with requests, investors with demands, and strangers with hidden motives. Nobody had ever asked her so honestly, without wanting anything from her. "Are you asking me on a date?" she asked. Mark nodded. "Yes." Sophia studied him carefully. "Why?" Mark almost admitted it was a dare, but something stopped him. Instead, he said, "Because I'd like to know the woman behind the CEO." Sophia smiled unexpectedly. "Friday, 7 o'clock. Mark immediately regretted agreeing when Friday arrived. His daughter Emma helped him choose between 2 shirts, laughing because her father looked more nervous than she had ever seen him. "Are you going to marry her?" Emma asked innocently. Mark nearly dropped his wallet. "It's just dinner." Emma smiled knowingly, unconvinced. Sophia arrived at the restaurant precisely at 7. Mark expected expensive jewelry and intimidating elegance, but instead she wore a simple black dress and looked surprisingly nervous. "You look different from your boardroom photos," Mark said. Sophia laughed. "Good. Those photos make me look like someone I don't recognize." Their conversation unexpectedly became easy. Sophia talked about growing up with a demanding father who believed emotions were weaknesses. Mark talked about raising Emma after losing his wife. Neither tried to impress the other. They simply listened. By dessert, Sophia had laughed more than she had during months of corporate meetings. When Mark returned home, Emma was waiting on the couch. "Well?" she asked. Mark smiled. "She was wonderful." Emma's eyes widened. "You like her?" Mark didn't answer. His silence said enough. Across the city, Sophia sat alone in her penthouse, staring at her phone. She was smiling without realizing it. Ryan called the next morning, expecting jokes. "So, Millionaire Princess didn't throw you out?" Mark laughed. "No, we had a good time." Ryan suddenly became serious. "You know this started as a dare, right?" Mark's smile disappeared. He knew. But now the dare felt irrelevant because genuine feelings had begun appearing where neither man expected them. Sophia invited Mark to her company's charity event. He arrived with Emma, worried that the billionaire world would make his daughter uncomfortable. Instead, Sophia greeted Emma warmly and introduced her to several children participating in the event. Emma quickly became comfortable, and Mark watched Sophia kneel beside her, listening carefully to every story. Later that evening, Sophia admitted she had never imagined dating someone like Mark. "Everyone approaches me because I'm a CEO, she explained. "You didn't seem impressed by any of it." Mark smiled. "Because your company can't tell me whether you're kind." Sophia looked at him quietly. "And what have you decided?" "I think you are," Mark answered. Sophia's expression softened. She reached for his hand. Neither noticed Ryan watching from across the room, suddenly realizing his stupid dare had become something much more serious than expected. Weeks passed. Mark and Sophia began building a strange but beautiful routine. Sophia learned to attend Emma's school events. Mark helped Sophia escape endless work dinners. They cooked together, argued about movies, and laughed over ordinary mistakes. For Sophia, these simple moments were more valuable than every luxury her wealth had ever purchased. Then disaster arrived. A business rival leaked private photographs of Mark and Sophia, accusing Mark of dating her for financial gain. Headlines called him a gold-digging single father. Investors questioned Sophia's judgment. Mark immediately offered to leave, believing his presence was damaging her company. Sophia refused. "I'm not ashamed of loving someone," she said firmly. Mark finally confessed the truth about the dare. Sophia stared at him in silence. Her heart sank. "So our first date happened because your friend challenged you?" Mark nodded. "Yes, but everything after that was real." Sophia walked away, devastated. She needed time to understand whether their relationship had ever truly belonged to them. 3 days later, Mark received a message from Sophia asking him to meet at the same cafe where Ryan had issued the dare. When Mark arrived, Sophia was waiting. She looked tired but calm. "I was angry," she admitted. "Not because you accepted the dare, but because I realized I was terrified of losing you." Mark sat quietly. Sophia continued. "The dare started this. It didn't create what happened afterward." She reached across the table and held his hand. "I don't care how we met. I care about who we became." Mark smiled through relieved tears. Across the room, Ryan watched silently and finally understood his reckless joke had created something beautiful. Months later, Sophia announced a new company initiative supporting single parents returning to work. Mark helped design the program from personal experience. Their relationship remained private whenever possible, but neither hid it anymore. Emma proudly introduced Sophia as the person who makes Dad smile, causing everyone to laugh during family dinners. 1 year after the original dare, Ryan invited Mark and Sophia back to the same cafe. He raised his coffee cup. "I officially apologize for the dumbest dare I've ever made." Sophia laughed. Mark shook his head. "Honestly, I owe you." Ryan smiled. "Then I guess I finally won a dare." Mark looked at Sophia across the table. She reached for his hand beneath the table. Their story had started with a challenge neither took seriously, but love had transformed that foolish dare into something neither billionaire wealth nor ordinary hardship could measure. A family choosing each other, one honest day at a time.